can't be the J.K. Rowling podcast. Please, no.
Hi, all your
hello and
favorite
welcome to
characters are gay.
This was 10 years ago. We could talk, but not anymore. It's too late.
Is My Immortal still a popular fanfic?
Those who know it. Anyway, this is Dissonant Waves.
Malfoy and Harry Potter are gay for each other. That's canon.
Okay.
This is Dissonant Waves, episode, I think, 5.
Yeah,
we're all
5.
here again. Yeah, 5.
Same 3 losers.
No, we're still figuring this out.
My girlfriend's also in the bed, so it's 3 losers and 1 girl who's doing nothing.
Oh, again.
Instead, actually showing me Harry Potter stuff as a way of revenge for me making that comment.
Fully deserved.
They sort.
Yeah, fuck me.
They sort dogs into houses, and it's so cute.
Yeah, dogs already go in houses.
No, but Hogwarts houses.
Dog
Okay,
houses
I
already
disconnected.
exist.
But Hogwarts.
I disconnected because my signal's shitty around here. This
so
is Dissonant Waves.
We're here again to record a podcast about some albums we listened to.
Yes.
This week, if I have my notes
2
correct,
albums and an EP. An EP
EPLP,
that could have been an album.
EPLP is a really antiquated distinction that is, still usable, but I mean, come on, it's just a matter of length at this point.
And
There's no
we have a
font
feeling this
size.
episode is going to be 2 hours long.
These days, kids barely know what a CD is. They don't even know how data works on a CD. Anyway,
All these fucking boot
that's me
Fortnite
being
Zoomers.
24 and angsty. We have 2 albums. I'm sorry, 2 albums and an EP today. We have on the EP side, the Middle East and their EP, the recordings of the Middle East, very original. And on the albums,
recordings of the Middle East.
Yeah, because they got to put that out somehow. And then we got the Claypool Lennon Delirium, Monolith of Phobos, which is just a jumble of words all strewn together.
Which is Sean Lennon and Les Claypool's band.
The less of Claypool we hear of, the better. No, I'm kidding. And then the big one, we got Neutral Milk Hotel in the Aeroplane over the sea. Now, I've heard tell that our last episode did not fully record as we intended, so I'm not sure how much of this is just repeating that or telling you for the first time. But yeah, those are what we're talking about today.
Yes.
I'd like to start.
We should probably start with the one that I feel is the least significant, which was my suggestion, Monolith of Phobos.
Really, I thought we'd talk about the Middle East first, just to get it out of the way, because it's shorter.
No, because I just want to quickly sum up the Claypool Lennon Delirium. So Les Claypool finds Sean Lennon at a concert, and he goes, "Wow, this guy's got talent." So he brings him over, and he goes like, "Hey man, I'm gonna go do these spaces again." And then Sean Lennon's gonna go start singing like his fucking father did. But unfortunately, fortunately, he doesn't get shot on stage like his father did. So that is probably a big plus for the Claypool Lennon Delirium. While Les Claypool is still going boom, 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 Sean Lennon is getting high off his fucking mind, talking about all this fucking monoliths and all this fucking other shit, and that goes on for 50 minutes. 8 out of 10.
To be fair, John Lennon wasn't shot on stage. He was shot in New York, which is like a stage, but real life.
Oh, sorry, if someone else is shot on stage.
And also, Les Claypool does quite a bit of singing on the album, too.
Dimebag Darrell was shot on stage, but that's a very different topic. So yeah, Sean Lennon sounds like his father. That's a thing. And have you seen the music video for this album? Have you seen the music video though?
I have not.
There's 2. There's one for what is it? Breath of a Salesman, and there's another one for Bubbles Burst. Now,
gestures. Tell me what you want.
I don't know what Bubbles Burst is about, correct?
The what?
Bubbles Burst. We know what it's about, correct?
I don't know what half of the shit of this album was about.
Bubbles Burst is about Michael Jackson's pet monkey, Bubbles. And the music video is Michael Jackson and the monkey. 2 people playing as them. in their relationship. It's
Listen,
a,
that's just wholesome.
it's a very literal translation of the song, and they really play up, all the stuff. And Michael Jackson's played by a white actor, so all the stuff. And watching that was very strange, very surreal, kind of like watching halfway between like a snuff film and like Human Centipede or something. So that was a really fun addition to my night.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't watch that.
Yeah.
I'm talking real
that's-
fast to it because I want to get it out of the way, just to set it out there that it's real fucked up.
I'm a fan of Les Claypool. I haven't watched any of the videos from basically any of the.
And Breath of a Salesman's video is just like fucking nonsense, just trippy colors and waving a camera around in a city somewhere. But this is this is a thing that happens where a lot of just talented musicians, people that fans would know, get together and start doing their shit. Sometimes it works out. I would say that this kind of works out in a way. But then you get, other stuff, other artists coming together, which we'll talk about next week, which is very different. But
Yes,
Les Claypool, Sean Lennon. Overall, how do you two think it came together?
I think it's a good
I
album.
loved it. I loved it start to finish. Les Claypool, like I know I was joking about it. Les Claypool is probably one of the most, if not the most talented bass player out there. That's
Definitely
got a following. The bass on this is complex as fuck, and it might seem to people who aren't quite used to a lot of Claypool's things a little bit too over the place, but it is so well put together. Everything just works. And
Yes.
usually with a lot of albums, you don't go into it and think, the bass is the biggest highlight and that's what I could focus on the whole time. Because the bass is supposed to be that kind of background instrument that helps like drive the beat along. But when you listen to a Les Claypool album, that's just completely thrown out the window. And holy fucking shit.
And Les Claypool derived that influence from Geddy Lee of Rush.
Mm.
And
we will never do a Rush album.
We're going to do a Rush album sometime soon.
Better be 2112 or else we're having a fucking fight.
We gotta do some albums that are before 1990.
It's going to be arguably, in my opinion, their best album, and it's from the 80s.
Oh, the 80s.
It's either 2112 or Moving Pictures, or else.
No, those are both albums from the 70s.
Oh, really? I thought Moving Pictures was early 80s. That's my bad.
I think it was 80. I think it was 79. I could be wrong.
I'll go search that up actually, because I'm actually just curious as fuck.
Oh, but I'm gonna say this just while you're looking this up. I came
81.
81.
I came to this album very apprehensive because the first time I listened to it, I hated it. I thought it was very annoying. Like they were just trying to be fucking Pink Floyd, and oh yeah, Sean sounds like his dad, so we're just gonna do that. And then I listened to it again, and I came around. I started to like it, which I was very surprised by. Like giving it proper time, listening to all the different parts of it, listening to what was actually going on in the creation of it. I gained an appreciation for it, but it was a really tough journey to get there.
And that's understandable as someone who used to listen to Les Claypool before I started playing bass, and didn't really like him.
I kind of know Primus. I'm not really big into Primus, and I kind of expected some weird stuff. But yeah, it takes.
Play Guitar Hero 2, baby. John the Fisherman. Fucking as a kid, just constantly listening to that shit. Or playing
mine.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and what was it? Jerry was a race car driver.
That's all bass.
God, I know that song exactly when you started doing that. Jesus Christ, he's a good bass player.
Oh, he's great.
And to me, Les Claypool's music has never really been that kind of whole hard to get into for me. It is understandably hard to get into for some people because it is again quite a complex bass sound, which might not be everyone's taste. it's not the most. What's the word I'm trying to look for? Conflicting
Approachable?
sound. Like it's not. It's a bit more approachable than you might think. I don't know. I mean, again, it's always really kind of just hit me, so I've never really had a problem getting into it.
My
Mhm.
problem wasn't really the bass. It was more just like, oh, this sounds like some psychedelic shit. Like they're trying to be the 60s.
Psychedelic shit is top shit.
It can be,
And I
but
mean, that's just kind of Claypool.
so like I said, it took me a minute to actually like get into it and like groove with it, you know, to get past that
Yeah.
initial reaction of like, oh, this is just fucking 50 years ago again.
You know what? I'm gonna make a bold claim. There's Claypool's best song. South Park theme. Thank you. I will be taking no contact messages.
Yeah, it's a good one. Although technically he didn't write it, I want to say.
Nah, he performed it.
He performed it, but he didn't. I don't think I think it wasn't until later. I could be wrong. I'm Googling this.
Let's go on.
Psychedelic is also like going into the whole like it's conflicting because psychedelic. A psychedelic can either really like hit you. You either like not always instantly. It will either hit you, or you'll just go completely not in the mood for it.
Mhm.
So it's a bit understanding why that can make this one a bit harder to get into. It's like I'd say it's for Tame Impala's Lonerism, which has probably the strongest psychedelic out of all those three. That's the one where, like, if you're not in the mood for it, you probably won't get past that first song. But once you're in, you just don't stop until it's over. And I feel like that's the case with this album as well. I don't know if it becomes a bit too much memorable and, like, I can remember all of the sounds that were thrown away in there, because it really does just help you zone out with it, which is something that I always do with psychedelic, and it's fucking awesome.
Mhm.
You said you just let it play and you just kind of just sit there. Psychedelic can really do that, and I know there's enough people who, you know, the common thing about psychedelic that people talk about is taking psychedelics while doing it, but this is one in which you can kind of just sit there and just listen to it. You can kind of forget, but you like won't care. You just keep going. At least that's what I found myself doing with this.
Oh, one thing I noticed I was really interested in, like, interested is a weird word to use, but just like kind of surprised by, I guess, was the amount of like political discussion that infiltrated this album. A lot about like pissing off the right and like commenting on like American politics, and America is a satire completely, which is strange to
Yes.
think about. It's like, you know, John Lennon, British, Sean Lennon is his son, and then it's like, oh yeah, he lives here, so he can talk about that stuff because he lives it.
Yeah.
So does Claypool.
He's an American citizen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's still like that moment of like, oh yeah, I never really thought about that.
Yeah. And like I literally just checked his Twitter, and the last thing he tweeted was political.
Enough.
Nah,
Just-
no politics on this podcast, boys. That's illegal.
It's fun to imagine.
Remove all politics.
It's just
I mean,
fun to
we
imagine
haven't
what
gotten.
John would be like if he got into politics now or something, just
Oh
commenting
god,
on
he'd be such a
shit.
shithead.
So
Like-
here comes a fun story of Australian politics. Have you ever heard of the band Midnight Oil?
Yes.
Yeah,
Sounds familiar.
you've probably heard the song "Beds Are Burning" or something played, or some other ones like "Blue Sky Man." It's unimportant. Anyway, Peter Garrett was always quite a political songwriter. You know, songs like "Beds Are Burning" and stuff like that are about taking over the Aboriginal land.
Hmm.
And I think blue sky mining, I think that one's about climate change. I could be wrong though. And Peter Garrett then decided around 2007 he was gonna finally go into government, and he got elected. He won his seat. So, environmental minister when Labour Party was in was Peter Garrett, and it's not that he had bad intentions. It's just that he couldn't really get anything done. He made a mistake of really early on trying to tackle pokie machines in pubs, and if you know anything about, like, you know how America sees Las Vegas as gambling capital of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, take one step in Australia, you'll fucking change your mind. Holy shit. We're the only country in which you can go to any pub and you will just see poker machines everywhere in Australia, whole country. And Peter Garrett made that mistake of trying to tackle them. You best believe that got completely spun into a whole kill the pubs kind of situation. From there, he kind of backed down and didn't really get to do much. He always did kind of pull himself up to be a pompous wanker in some of his interviews, but I mean that's politicians for you. I wouldn't really put that into it. So yeah, sometimes when you get these songwriters and singers and stuff to actually go into government, yeah, not the best idea.
I mean, we kind of learned that later, but with the reality TV star.
You learn that
I'm
later?
actually surprised you didn't stop after Schwarzenegger.
And actually, if I'm going to be honest, we should have stopped after Ronald Reagan. He was an actor.
Yeah. We should have stopped a long time ago, but we keep going. This is a train that won't stop because we like death, I guess.
Don't worry. It doesn't matter what crazy decisions your president does. Our prime minister will be there to back it up. Isn't that right, Ash? She gave me a thumb up. That's
waiting on
this
the
relationship.
I'm just waiting on the Clint Eastwood Betty White ticket in 2020.
Oh, come on! It wouldn't be.
Imagine
Betty White
like,
is about as liberal as they come. Clint Eastwood is about as
unite
red
the
as they
nation.
come.
Unite the nation.
I'd vote Oprah
seize
Betty
the means
White.
of production. This
I mean,
is a communist podcast.
My 2016 dream of H.W. Bush and Carter getting together didn't happen. So this is my new pet project.
Yeah, I honestly can't believe Jeb Bush didn't win all those seats. Come on.
His slogan and logo is just so great, just Jeb.
Jeb!
Exclamation point.
Have you seen that fucking satire thing where it's like, what about Jeb, and then just a picture of a roller coaster?
Oh,
the top tier.
Yeah,
anyway, Les Claypool was Jeb. Thank you.
Talk to us about
That's
OxyContin Girl, because I feel like that's the reason you brought it up, Trix, in the first place, was OxyContin Girl.
Yeah, OxyContin Girl, which is like a surprisingly like deep kind of like take on the whole opioid crisis in America. But like it has kind of like the same groove to me as the song Belgrade's Missionary off of the of Montreal album we did.
This reminded me of Nervous in the Alley. I think that's the right song.
Yeah, off of the first Smash Mouth album.
Yeah. So this is a callback to episode 2 out of 5. We're doing well here.
Oh yes.
So I want to actually point out a lot of I don't know if you see it on Spotify for this as well, but when I see the related artists, Claypool and Delirium, and some of these artists are stuff that I have been thinking about having some cover on here, but they're like these really good Australian acts. You got King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, and Tropical Fuckstorm here. And I think that's also what helped me get into this album as well. is that I do actually kind of see a similar sound between all of these.
So that's Claypool.
Well, except King Gizzard, which goes into any fucking genre they want to.
I
But
was
it has that kind of whole psychedelic kind of heavy style.
you saying they were just like related? They weren't like he didn't go with them or anything.
No, it's just on a related artist. It's a related sounds and
Yeah.
something I wanted to bring up because these are some artists that I might be bringing up later in later episodes. Specifically, King Gizzard. I don't think this podcast is ever going to end without me referencing at least one King Gizzard album.
You should wait till
I
episode
honestly
100.
have not listened to any King Gizzard.
Neither have I.
Yeah, if I go on that path now, we'll be there and for the next 1 hour. Just go onto any King Gizzard fan page and you will have 100 people recommending you in which orders, what universe that the whole place takes in.
Step at a time. We got Neutral Milk Hotel today, so that's like step one.
Yeah. Now, when I bring up a King Gizzard album, I'll bring up the Gizmos. That's a promise to all of you. 17 albums deep. Let's go.
Be a grab bag.
Wait,
We all pick an album.
Before we move off of King Gizzard, can I make a recommendation to you for the King Gizzard when you do get to it?
Mhm.
Recommend them in the order of recommendation that you would tell somebody to listen to King Gizzard. Because neither of us have listened to King Gizzard.
Alright, so
But-
from... Yeah, I get what you mean. From the most accessible to get into them to the least
Yeah.
accessible. Yeah.
When we get there, not right now.
Yeah, that's like... Again, we'll get when we get there. I'll just quickly end it with this. The reason that that's hard is because they are a band that spreads for so many fucking genres that there is no like, oh, you got into here. And now they've experimented a bit with the sound or anything. It's like they always experiment with the sound. You may as well just go in fucking blind.
Sounds
Fair.
cool. I like that.
Back onto the Claypool Lennon Delirium.
You know, there's no underwear in space.
I think that's a good closer, actually.
That's a George Lucas quote.
Yeah.
I can't believe that's in here.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's a that we have a space quote that sounds stupid and it's not
believe that's a
it was who did Hitchhiker's Guide?
Douglas Adams?
Douglas Adams.
Yeah,
Fucking
I
love
was thinking him. I can never remember if Douglas Adams. I know it's probably someone else completely different who wrote Dilbert, but every time I think Douglas Adams, I think, oh, that's the guy who did
Scott
Dilbert.
Adams.
Or what's it? Scott
Adams.
Adams. That's fucking why.
They're very different.
Fucking Adams.
Hello, I was going to be an engineer.
Is it Dilbert?
Yeah, Dilbert was an engineer.
Was because you what?
Actually,
No, like
no. This is
a lot of
the
the
fun
Dilbert
of.
humor applied to me because like I was in that world of like spreadsheets, meetings, and shit like that.
They said you're going to be an engineer because of Dilbert.
No, it appealed to me because
Okay.
I was in engineering school and all that shit.
So
And,
Ash
like,
just
I love-
showed me something in which I already know this. It just needs to be mentioned. Is the Jack Black and Jack White team up to be Jack Gray? That's all. Just
Oh,
needs to
yeah,
be mentioned.
They did that on Jablinski Games, didn't they?
So going back into the Scott Adams, when we're talking about politics on this, he is heavily conservative, and
Oh, yeah.
he has probably one of the cringiest YouTube channels if no one has ever seen it. And there's this, I can just remember this because it's so. I don't even know what type of argument he's trying to make here. I'm sure someone will go at me and just say, "Oh, he's trying to make this argument." What the fuck, I know it's fucking stupid anyway. And he's reviewing this dishwashing ad. It's for dishwashing detergent, and the man is cleaning up, and he goes, "Ah ha 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 ha," because yeah, you know, we're supposed to treat men as the ones in the house now and shit like that. It's like, Scott, put the camera down.
Can I just give an oh shit moment for a sec?
Yep.
I just went onto his channel, which is Real Coffee with Scott Adams, and holy fucking shit, he's 660 episodes deep, and he uploads daily.
Oh, he stopped writing Dilbert, I guess.
Yeah. In all fairness, Stillbert was not really that funny, so.
And it's just his bald head with his glasses.
So is he
And
just
each
drinking
one is like
coffee?
an hour long. Holy fuck!
Fucking hell! This is peak. This is.
Anyway, No Wonder We're in Space is
Episode 488, Scott Adams, my Assange prediction.
yeah, No Wonder We're in Space was a Carrie Fisher story that she told, and she said George Lucas said there was no wonder we're in space. That's it. That's the monolith of Phobos. The end. Let's move on to the Middle East. Talking about politics, right?
Before I keep looking at this fucking Scott Adams shit, holy fuck! It's funny.
I'm scrolling through it. I just want to see if there's anything before all of.
It's all Trump fucking. There's an Epstein one.
Now that we're on the Middle East, we can just keep talking about politics. Fuck it.
Yeah. So the Middle East.
Some of these only have like 20 views.
No. The Middle East, despite the name, is a North Queensland of Australia. Specifically, I think Townsville focused kind of large-scale indie folk band who broke up more times than they actually ever released the fucking thing. Good on them. And the one that I chose for this was the recordings of the Middle East, specifically the EP version, because fuck finding the actual album of it, which I consider to be one of the best EPs ever done.
It's a
just full stop on that. That's a fucking great EP. It only goes around 26 minutes, which means it's probably the shortest thing that we're going to actually cover on this thing. But I can still fucking talk about it. It really contrasts itself from being this really quiet, like at the start with the song "The Darkest Side," which is this real. It's really only the guitar and the voices in the song, and you can hear all these backing vocals come up all this time, and it's this real soft kind of 5-minute cruiser. It is got that pretty depressing sound into it. And that's completely contrasted in the next song, Lonely, which is a 7.5-minute build-up track, which again does start off soft and has this whole kind of like backing vocals into that. But then suddenly it builds up into what the rest of the EP kind of has. And it has this huge instrumental breakdown, trumpets coming out of everywhere. Yeah, this guy's screaming,
right there, Riddle, I need to stop you right there. We never talked about our favorite songs of the Monolith of Phobos.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick. Favorite songs, Monolith of Phobos. Go.
Mr. Right favorite.
Favorite.
Oh, my least favorite be? Yeah. Jax, you go.
Mr. Right is also probably my favorite. And same thing with Captain Lariat. It's up there, too. Bubbles Burst is probably a bit of a on the decline for me, but it's still a good track.
My favorite's Bubbles Burst, even though it's about Michael Jackson. Least favorite is probably Captain Lariat. Anyway, back to the Middle East.
Yeah, Middle East, blah, blah, blah. We're skipping back to where I was. Anyway, so yeah, you have this huge build-up. You have all the instrumentation come out. And then you got songs like Blood, which kind of has a lot more of that instrumentation throughout all of it. Fool's Gold, which is probably the softest track actually on there. And then ends with this kind of lo-fi fuzz tune. That's the album, the EP, last 26 minutes. And it is quite a contrasting. They do quite a lot with their sound in 26 minutes. Middle East, to me, has always been a big what-if band. Thankfully, me and my missus managed to actually get to catch them at Vivid Live at Sydney. And I'm bringing this up because they're a band that when you catch them live, you don't actually expect what they bring out. They change their songs so much when they play to the point that they're unrecognizable.
Really? So they're like upbeat and stuff?
The whole thing flowed. Like, it was an hour long and it just flowed from start to finish. They completely changed all their tunes to fit as a flow. It's like everything that they write kind of has to fit with each other.
it makes sense. Everything felt kind of like it was in the same key on this album, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it just like a lot of like AC/DC did everything in E flat.
AC/DC just put out the same song for like 5 albums.
Yes, and same thing with like Johnny Cash.
I will say
And
I'm
it worked.
looking at my notes for Middle East, and a lot of it's just like, yeah, this sounds like Fleet Foxes. This sounds like the XX. I really like this. Death
Yeah,
Cab.
I'd say it's,
Yeah, I did get
I'd
some
say it's
Fleet
more
Foxes
influenced by
vibes.
Fleet Foxes because I think XX.
Pending-
When was their first? Yeah, no, XX wouldn't have even released a single.
It
Before
might have
this
been
one came out.
kind of around the same time. I'm not sure.
This is, I mean, Middle East. I guess the original release of this is 2008. I think XX Islands came out 2011 or maybe 2010.
Looking it up. XX formed in 2005. First album was 2010, I believe, or 2009. 2009.
Yeah, XX definitely would not have been known in Australia until Islands was released there.
Yeah. I also wrote that "Lonely" is the perfect accompaniment to "O Comely."
So, brave opinion here. I like Lonely a lot more than I do O Comely. I think O Comely is really impressive with how Jeff Magnum. I'll bring it on to it when we actually do Neutral Milk Hotel. But I reckon Lonely is a lot more impressive of a song.
And for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Again,
I
we probably
wouldn't
are
compare
comparing
them.
apples to oranges, but
I feel like that's exactly what you're doing.
It was like, it's a long song. There are horns. It's guitar. It's singing. I don't know. It's like, oh, there's 2 long songs, and they kind of are like in the same, state or something.
Yeah, like you could definitely see where Middle East kind of like maybe got like some influence from Neutral Milk, that sort of thing.
Vaguely,
But,
maybe.
like, I wouldn't say that they're comparable for the most part.
I wouldn't. I don't know too much about their influences when it comes to folk. I know there definitely are some bands who I listen to from Australia who are quite influenced by Neutral Milk Hotel, which I'll probably bring up in a later podcast because they've got some interesting stuff as well. Yeah, Middle East do have a sound. You can't really deny that they do have some of that folk. I mean, a lot of indie folk that you just hear full stop has influence from Neutral Milk Hotel. That is just such an inspirational album.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna give you 2 seconds here.
I have Bilarian, if that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. Bilarian sounds like Radiohead. Different, but also somehow fitting, like 90s Radiohead, like, and OK Computer.
Lonely is just great. Like the build up on it is perfect in my opinion because it really takes its time to really blossom, and when it does, it is such a satisfying outro. Plus, Middle East do know when to use vocals primarily as just an instrument, and they do that throughout this whole EP. I know a lot of times when you hear people go like, do those kind of just sounds to just be filler, it can be quite annoying. That was like, the example I use is obviously a satire of it all. That was the reason why Blink-182's All the Small Things chorus is literally just the word nah 500 times because they knew that would be popular. And it can be kind of filler to just go throughout the whole fucking EP.
Yeah.
But
it works.
I reckon they do work with it quite well in this.
Like even though it's a very stylized thing, there's a lot of variety in there too. Like Lonely has like a fry scream in there. There's like a lot of cymbal crashing. There's a lot of sounds. They find ways to integrate their stuff with other sounds so it doesn't become discordant.
And moving back onto the intro song, which again has that huge contrast because the darkest side, I think, only has a couple horns towards the end and a couple moments in between, but ultimately is really, really simplistic from start to finish. And then Lonely really contrasts this by having this huge crash.
And I will say, like, the lyrics to it, like, if you listen to them, they draw a lot to them. Some of them hit kind of close. Like, there's a line about the father having to sell his Gibson 335 to sell to keep the lights on in his house.
Yeah, in the dark side. I'll actually get those lyrics up while I'm here. Because, Middle East are quite... They've never really been a political band when it comes to their lyrics. They have been quite personal. I think they've had some things that do reference history and stuff like that, but especially in their album Black Death 1349, which is a fucking great song. But yeah, the lyrics, love was a sold Gibson 335, and your father's dream died that night. Just to keep that electricity on. It's just, it is quite personal.
Yeah, and like that actually like kind of hits close to me because when my father was like a big musician when I was born, and he had to end up selling a lot of his to well, mostly because his wife, my mom, wanted him to get rid of a lot of them, but also because he wasn't playing out as much, and like his dream just kind of died. But it wasn't like his main dream. But like I'll see him now, like he'll buy like a new guitar or something, and then he'll get bored of it, and then the spark just isn't really there anymore. I feel for that.
And then, so the darker side is always about the kind of like, to me, a lot of the lyrics kind of go into the whole like giving up and everything just to stay afloat.
Like the whole part about cancer.
Just try, That's in Blood, I believe, which I will get to because Blood is probably the song that has the most to talk about in it. And then you have Lonely, which is it's pretty much, to me, it's always been a song just about feeling disconnected from the world. Like feeling isolated. That's the whole Lonely. It's not like, because a lot of times when you have people singing about loneliness, it's like, oh, I don't have a partner or anything like that. Let's not bring up God being an incel again, please.
I'm not going to apologize, but we can move on from that.
We can never forgive you, Dominic. Well, I can't. I don't give a shit what Trick sings. This is my God.
Lonely is about being lonely together. It's the very first word. It's we. We have material minds and restless hands, longing hearts and lonely beds. It's about being lonely together, and that's very beautiful for how depressing it is.
Yeah, I think the we and the we have material minds is supposed to be, I'm just gonna go and say it. We live in a society. Okay.
Bottom text.
Is it really?
Yeah, the we have material minds is supposed to refer to everyone.
Oh, that's the consumerism jig I was getting from Smash Mouth. I don't know if jig's the right word. Jab, I don't know. Either way, vibe. Yeah, that's the stuff I was trying to read in Smash Mouth, and now it's here, and I don't like it as much.
Yeah, Lonely is a pretty consumerism song.
While we're on the topic of Smash Mouth, I would like to bring up the point that we didn't make on our Smash Mouth episode, and that is that Paul DeLeese is a white-beating asshole.
Scar. What would we do with that? Yeah.
We're not talking about that because,
But,
from what I've known, the Middle East haven't had any allegations against them. I think all fighting has just been within each other.
So apologies to Stephanie, adult mom, for the whole pronoun thing last episode.
Oh yeah, that too. I addressed that in the description of that episode.
Since we were talking about the Smash, I think we should just get it all out there, just on record.
Yeah, just get the corrections thrown out.
Yeah.
And on this, I will move on to the main song of this EP. So obviously, from what we can gather from the past two songs, this is quite a depressive tone, somewhat personal to the singer throughout the whole EP. And Blood is probably the most personal on the whole fucking thing. And it's the song, in a real simple way of saying it, is about death. You will see this. You probably heard the song in if you've watched a couple of
really?
movies. I think they love to play. Yep.
Are you using your internet?
Me?
Am I using my internet?
You should stop.
Am I lagging like?
Yeah.
Oh no! I'm not downloading anything. I'm just stupid.
Right here clicking. It just starts going to shit.
I know I'm on my mobile data.
Can't use anything but internet. Oh no! I've ruined the podcast for everyone.
Just print out the lyrics beforehand. I don't know what to tell you. But no, keep going.
Yeah, so Blood is probably the most personal song in there. The way to describe it is that it's just about death. And it's both in a metaphorical and literal sense. There are some actual, like, the whole, as I think it was Trix was saying, the whole cancer line in there, which is, actually about someone getting cancer and dying. I think there are references to suicide in this as well, and then there's also the death of a marriage, which is the metaphorical sense. And it is...
It seems like the death of the marriage is about the grandmother dying. So, there is the divorce line. My bad.
Yeah. Because I think each verse in there is about a different scenario. The first one, I believe, is about his brother committing suicide. Second one, I think, is about his parents divorcing, and then his third one, I think, is about his grandmother dying to cancer. Which is probably the funnest lines of this. I don't know, I'll get it up on my phone so we don't have any of this stupid fucking clicking.
I have the lyrics up here. I'll put them in the Discord.
Okay. See, I'll make this.
It sounds like
easier.
a song. It sounds like a song of somebody really trying to work through their shit. Like they're really trying to
that's
sort it out.
Pretty much it.
Like kind of capturing those moments that they remember and kind of those those fleeting words and pictures that they still have of what was going on. And
yeah, here we go. Here's the lyrics that I was going to mention. The grandfather, weary soul, you'll fly over your life once more before you die. Since our grandma passed away, you've waited for forever and a day just to die, and someday soon you will die.
the last line is,
Everybody
"There's nothing you
dies.
can do about it now."
Yeah. And that's one of those ones where every time I listen to it, I can only just imagine this old man sitting on his porch, just looking out to, like, pretty much a deserted road, wind coming in there. Maybe you got a little fucking tumbleweed, and he's just there, just waiting for death. And that's probably what you're supposed to think of. It's not the most metaphorical lyrics you'll ever hear. But sometimes that kind of whole simple, literal sense. And that last verse is probably the most literal in the whole EP. Because there's not really much more to think about than, yeah, that's cancer.
And I'd like to take a moment to just say fuck cancer.
Oh, fuck cancer.
We've done it, boys. We've spread cancer awareness.
I think I heard a quote or I read a
Fuck the
quote.
Susan G. Komen Association.
You use my shade of pink.
Oh, fucking God.
I was gonna say, I was reading a quote that was saying something like how the Middle East wasn't really into their own work, that they thought it was kind of derivative of other things that they'd heard.
Yeah, they were quite the perfectionists, in which they were never quite happy with their final products.
It's amazing to think about because these songs are so just very low key, beautiful, haunting, like atmospheric in a way, but just kind of they set a weird mood but maybe not a good mood, but like a mood, a big mood.
They wouldn't set the mood though.
Like I could
They're, like,
imagine
putting on some candles and some heated
But-
and getting some fuzzy handcuffs.
this is like
Well, just
lighting the candles when the power's out and it's a snowstorm and you're
Mm.
waiting for your husband to come home because he's probably dead because he probably drove off a cliff somewhere or something.
Yeah, that's more of the mood. And it's less of the mood like, oh, you're waiting for your husband to come in from the next room after lighting the candles and getting on the lingerie.
yeah,
Right.
but actually, I would say the happiest moment in this whole EP does come from Blood. Like the first three verses going into it are depressing. There's somehow just out of nowhere, and yet it fits. There's just this 2-minute outro of what just seems to be people happy. As if it's like this whole we understand that this is life and this is how to move past it. Is to acknowledge and move on. It's all they can do. And that's why that last line, there was nothing you can do about it now, is probably the best line that they could have used to end the actual lyrical portion of the song.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing they can do other than kind of just celebrate the rest.
We'll keep living life.
And I would say that 2 minutes out of this whole 26-minute EP at the end of Blood, despite it probably being one of the most depressing songs of the whole thing, it's probably the happiest. Probably Middle East gets in their whole discography, actually. I think I've said probably the main points of this EP. I'll let you two babble on with your thoughts.
Fool's Gold.
I
very
just gotta
beautiful.
say,
Yeah.
it was just a great album.
Gold's very beautiful. Very. It's different because it has I don't know who the singer is, but her voice is great.
Mm.
Yeah. That I don't know. I can't. I lost my train of thought because that whole thing about blood really, I don't know, got to me or something. But yeah.
It's a song that hits you.
Yeah.
Also, if you like the female singer's voice in the album, I Want That You Are Always Happy. That's her actual debut full studio album. She actually does get a lot more time to shine, which is nice.
Weird way the cover is indicative and also not like that embrace on the cover is very. I think it matches kind of the warmth of these songs, but it's almost the
Plus,
It seems very
the whole
human.
art style of it as well. That kind of whole it's really old and rusted.
it's also like it's a picture of an embrace, a picture of a really sensual embrace that doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't seem necessarily sad, but I don't know. It's very.
It
loving.
seems like deep.
Mm.
Like the way
Well, to me,
the
it's-
guy's arms are with the lady's arm.
He's leaning into her.
Yeah, like he's
Let's just get
holding
the
her
picture up.
incredibly tight.
It's kind of a weird, but it's a contrast kind of to what this album's about, but it still fits.
In the end, I think that's really the most we can really go in deep into some of these songs. Obviously, the kind of lo-fi fuzz that you hear on Bellarand or however you fucking pronounce it is a sound that's unique to that song when it comes to this album, which is a really cool closer. It's just, I don't know if you'd specifically call it haunting, but it's not chill.
Your attention.
Mm.
'Cause
Obviously, I think the instrumentation throughout this whole fucking thing is just gorgeous.
It is.
you want to pick a best and worst because I think it flows pretty well.
I don't think I could pick a best.
If I had to pick a worse, if I absolutely had to, it would be Fool's Gold. I think that's probably the most nothing track out of any of this, but even there's enough times where I just keep going to it and just listen to it, and it's just beautiful. So that's if I absolutely had to pick, it would be Fool's Gold. Best is Blood and Lonely.
How do you pronounce that last track? Blireland?
Yeah, Blood and I don't know how to pronounce it.
Anyway, that would be my least if I had to pick one, just because it's the last one, and I think Fool's Gold's a pretty good ending, and having that just there is like, okay, there's this one too, and it's very good, but it's just like, oh, and there's this. I don't know. Darkest Side. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. Darkest Side.
Can I just say something real quick about the Bellerand?
Yeah.
It's a place in Middle Earth.
Well, there you go.
What are you talking about?
Yes, it's. I'm checking the Lord of the Rings wiki right now. It's northwestern. It's Beleriand.
I'm looking
Yeah,
at
I'm
my,
not even going to pretend to know how to pronounce that.
looking at my notes, and I say a female vocalist could have killed this song for that song, Fireland or whatever. And then I say, honestly, Amy Lee, that's who could kill this. This song to Evanescence.
Yeah, what's your favorites, Dominic? Before we start talking about Evanescence, and you know what happens when Evanescence gets brought up here? She's already smiling.
Right. Darkest Side and Blood, they're really good. It's all good though. It's all real good.
It's really good.
Now we come to the big part.
Oh boy.
You might as well just go through this just track by track, almost.
Before we do this, I would like to follow up on a bit from last week that I think made it in because Ritalin was recorded throughout all of it, but I don't know. And that first off, I'd like to ask you. I'd like you to elaborate on how much you'd like to fuck Jeff Mangum.
Mate. If Jack Magnum was right here, next to me, you guys wouldn't be hearing me because I would have never made it into the Discord call. We would still be holding each other in bed. I want to hold Jeff Magnum passionately, caress his hair. Ash, do not listen to this. I just want to hold him and just know what he's thinking. I just want him to whisper into my ear softly every single thought. And then once he's done, I will say, "That's beautiful," and kiss him on the lips. And that's when the condom comes out.
So I start singing.
Ash, you have done a very good job of not slapping me throughout that.
I start singing Song Against Sex.
You say you're ignoring me, but you've literally got your hands on your face. That's just
Jeff Mangum's a very beautiful person. He strikes deep into the soul. And every time I see him live, I haven't seen him live. There's a story there. I'll get to that in a minute. But every time I see him in videos, it's just like, how did this man get to be the frontman of a band? And also, I love that he is, because he's very fascinating, very amazing. And he's always just like, I'm so sorry, I'm sick. I want to be great. I just want this to go well. It's fascinating to watch it.
That's actually what I said to Jeff this morning as well. So I got a bit of a congested cough here.
I just want you guys to know that I actually threw myself on the ground. I was laughing so hard from all of that.
Before we get into this, sir, I want to point out what is the most relatable video to ever exist on the internet for me. And that is Stephen Colbert and Jerry Seinfeld are having a coffee. And Stephen Colbert starts talking about Neutral Milk Hotel. Jerry Seinfeld goes, "What is that, an antacid?" And as he's trying to explain in the
What is
airplane
that, an
over the sea,
antacid?
Seinfeld keeps laughing at him. And at that moment, I just related with Colbert so hard.
Well, he I know for the finale of the show he played Hall in 1945.
Yeah.
Colbert has never been secret about how much he loves Neutral Milk Hotel.
I know that, like, in Parks and Rec, there were some jokes written about it, too.
Yeah, that's I think that's one of the original, like, which rock star would you have sex with? And Aubrey Plaza picks Jeff Magnum.
Yes, and
Or was it fucking April Thunger or something?
yeah, April O'Neil. I also want to say
Yeah.
when it gets into they're doing like a contest and it's like, oh, what's April's favorite band? And Andy says, oh, it's Mouse Rat. No, she says, oh no, it's Neutral Milk Hotel.
I found about Neutral Milk Hotel through a John Green book called Will Grayson, Will Grayson. And at first I thought it was like made up because, you know, young adult novels, they like to make up shit like that. And then like reading about it, like the whole, like a part of the book is about going to Chicago to see a secret show of Neutral Milk Hotel before they were touring. And I don't know, that really stuck with me. And then I eventually checked it out, right? And I came to Neutral Milk Hotel, I don't even, it was otherworldly. Like,
Everyone just kept memeing about it, so I just wanted to see what the
but
that's actually my story with how I got into
I wish
Neutral Milk Hotel.
yeah, I wish it was just everyone kept memeing it. But it was just
I wish I was joking. Yep, that's legitimately how I got into them. Everyone kept making memes, so I said, my brother actually went, "Hey, what's that fucking album art I keep seeing all the time? I'm just gonna buy it out of eBay." And I was like, "Oh, it's Neutral Milk Hotel." And I just fucking searched it up, and there we go. Here I am.
yeah, I had friends who were into it, and just I don't know. It somehow took over my life. I might as well tell my story now. By the time I almost got to see Neutral Milk Hotel, because it's part of why I am so into this album the way I am right now. So like I said, I read about them in this book, Will Grayson, and I had them in mind for a while. Got into them, all that stuff, and this was like in high school. And in high school, I got my first job, a bakery, and I was super proud of that. And at a certain point, a few months in, I was like, you know, I graduated high school. I'm super proud of myself. I should treat myself with something really cool with all this money I'm making at my minimum wage job. And I decided to get tickets to Neutral Milk Hotel because they were touring and it was super cool. And it's like, we never thought they were going to tour again. And it's like, you know, I could just live out that Will Grayson fantasy that they almost had and they never did. But, so yeah, I decided to do that. I bought some tickets to Neutral Milk, way overpriced. I think I did it from like Ticketmaster or something. I forget now.
Oh.
And might have been StubHub. I don't know. But yeah, so I had plans to do that, and I was trying to get friends to go. It was an 18+ show, and my one friend who was big into the band, they were like, they missed the cutoff by like a week or two. I was like, fuck, I can't go. I'm still 17 then. It's like, fuck, okay. Who else do I take? I knew nobody else then who was really into the band. So I had like a good friend of mine who just agreed to go because I wanted to go, and he had no idea who they were. You know, so great. And so a few months go by, and I'm preparing for the concert. I'm not a big concert goer, so it's a big deal for me whenever I get to go. So it's a lot of, you know, just like I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm gonna go see it. It's gonna be great. I spent all this fucking money, and the night before, it's like the middle of winter. Just, you know, it's kind of shitty out. And the night before, I'm working at the bakery with this woman who only comes up every once in a while. She's not too involved in it. She's just kind of there when they need somebody. And I get this text that my dad had a stroke randomly. And it's like, oh, fuck. Okay, I got to leave right now and get to the hospital. And it's real shitty out. And, you know, I'm trying to drive. And somehow I get there before my parents do. So that was cool. And so My dad's now in the hospital. It's like, oh shit, should I go? I don't know. It's literally the day before the concert, right? And then so I'm like texting my friend, who also at the same time, his dad was getting like major surgery in the same hospital, major heart surgery. So I'm texting my friend like, hey, I don't know if I can go. And my friend's like, yeah, I don't think I'm able to go either because his dad's surgery got real complicated real fast and shit went wrong. And then he's telling me that he really could not handle his dad's surgery going wrong. And so he got, what's the word? Checked in patient in the same hospital for other reasons. And so all three of these people that are very close to me are now in the hospital. And I'm like, I really wanted to go see Neutral Milk Hotel. And now I really can't. That is like the shittiest thing in the world. Is like, I need to be with these people. And I can't see this fucking band. And I'm never going to be able to see them again. And so I just spent the rest of that day not going to the concert, listening to that album whenever I could, and just like, you know, being in the hospital, going on just, you know, kind of little breaks here and there just to clear my head. It was a very weird time. That's how I almost did not. That's how I almost saw them and did not.
That's crazy.
I watched a YouTube video of them live once. That's as close as I got.
I linked a video in
I haven't even
Discord.
done that.
Jeff pop up in places and videos is very fun because it's just like, here he is at Reckless Records in Chicago. Here he is at some random coffee shop, you know?
Here he is in my bed.
I'm sorry, Dominic.
I just don't know why you find it so funny. Like it's a good joke, but like
It just catches me off guard every fucking time. I don't know why. And I think the accent just has something to do with it too.
Oh, cool. So just by being Australian, I am a comedy genius.
Well, when you talk about fucking dudes, you do.
in Aubrey Plaza made Jeff Mangum into a sex symbol that everyone can enjoy.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say so.
Praise Aubrey Plaza.
I would go on a
Yeah.
date with Jeff Mangum. I think that'd be fun.
Although I don't know his sexual orientation, so I don't
Don't
know if
either.
he'd actually be willing.
Well, he has a wife, so
Yeah.
there's a chance.
Yeah, I have a girlfriend. I'm still bi.
I know.
I'm just saying, you know, if he ever was available and wanted to go out, I would. But you know, that's like a 0% chance of happening, especially after telling that story, probably. So.
Just have to reassure someone here. I'm gonna leave you for Jeff Magnum.
I know.
To be clear,
Jeff,
like
if you're listening, I'll totally do it.
before we get too creepy, because I don't want to do that. Let's talk about the
You
album.
leave me for a minute.
Not just any man, Jeff Magnum. His last name is Magnum. Come on, that shows how much
It's
he's
it's
packing.
Mangum.
Last name is Mangum.
Yeah, the N is before the G.
He's also said that he doesn't care. I believe how you pronounce it.
Magnum is a better last name.
That's
Magnum
racist.
PI.
had it in their album about it.
That's him. Come on, you know that beard is
Man,
man gum. Mango. You want to just call him Jeff Mango?
Mango.
You telling me that beard is not majestic?
It's pretty majestic. Oh, I found a video on Reddit. But it's just.
Alright, shall we
him-
actually get into this album we have spent around
King of
like
Carrot
15
Flowers
minutes?
Part 1. Let's go. When I was young, I was
Oh
the
man,
King of
this
Carrot
is a great
Flowers.
intro.
Yeah, this is no review. This is just us reciting the whole of In the Aeroplane Over the Sea for 40 minutes.
Yes.
Dun, 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 when you were young. Come on, everybody.
And Mom would stick a fork right into Daddy's shoulder, and your dad would throw the garbage all across the floor. Which sounds
then
like
As we
Middle
would
Eastern.
lay and learn.
Middle East and neutral milk, there's some similarities there. They talk about divorce and spousal arguments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think throughout the week, as we were talking about this, as I was arguing with Dominic about his Gautier comments, talking about how you could claim that Gautier was an incel when Jeff Mango, sorry, was talking about fucking Anne Frank for 40 minutes.
Doesn't want to really do it. I don't. Really
I know.
Well,
But
I mean the line, and we would, as we would lay and learn what each other's bodies were for, was lies.
yeah.
But like,
Actually,
is this a song about Anne Frank? I don't remember. I don't think it is necessarily.
So
B,
here's how I would explain what that kind of line is. I'll actually be serious now from talking about this album because, it's fantastic. I thought the Middle East is beautiful, but obviously Neutral Milk blows it out of the fucking water. And King of Carrot Flowers to me has always been a song about. It's just how I've always interpreted it. Was Jeff kind of escaping reality by reading into Anne Frank's diaries, and I've always imagined like this little kid reading Anne Frank's diary up in an attic whilst his parents are just fighting downstairs. And that whole we would lay and learn what each other's bodies were for. It's because if you read Anne Frank's diary, I haven't actually read it. It's just apparently if you read it, she goes quite in depth about her sexual exploration.
Yes. It's only in like uncensored versions because like a family member released it in the 90s.
I don't think it's like the biggest takeout from the book anyway, but that's how I've always taken it because in that diary she learns what her body is for, and that's how I take that lyric, not an actual. I want to it's a whole like discovering yourself kind of thing through this diary because the whole album relates back to Anne Frank. I think the only one that's specifically just about Anne Frank is Holland 1945. But this whole album uses her as kind of the comparison. Like I think O Comely is supposed to be about adultery, and Anne Frank is supposed to be this kind of symbol of pure innocence.
Yes.
King of Carrot Flowers 2 though, and 3, mostly part 2 might just be about wanting to be with her because that's just I love you like 5 times. Yeah, I can't really take much more out of that song.
I mean, I will say I always because I never read Diary of Anne Frank either, so I never really had that context. So I always imagine King of Carrot Flowers being just a very like a song about childhood and innocence lost and all that. Of just here are these kids, maybe they're just hanging out, or maybe it's a boy who has his friend who's a girl over, and his parents are just having at it, and they're just having this drag out fight, and they're just kind of like cowering in his room doing this stuff, but also just kind of like using it as like an escape of some sort.
Again, I think the childhood kind of thing that you got in it is correct, but I think it is supposed to be comparing it to Anne Frank. The whole thing's supposed to be in a comparison to Anne Frank.
As we will go, a lot of Neutral Milk songs kind of bleed into each other. Like if we was going through all the different EPs and albums. And there's the song I Will Bury You in Time, which talks about if he was the king of all the kids. And there's something in that line that reminds me of King of Carrot Flowers. Are you okay? Okay.
What?
A lot of stuff going on in your end, Riddle. Are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, I just had a bit of a cough and probably just heard me spitting out a bit into a tissue.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Podcast. Fun for all the family.
I don't want to talk and you're just dying over there. But yeah, just
we're all dying, Dominic.
He's just like the Usain Bolt of dying.
Yeah. From the way Jeff Mangum's lyrics kind of bleed together, I always thought of it as more like, maybe I was reading into literally out a kid who, through childhood happenstance is like, the king of Carrot Flowers. He has like a little crown and everything too. Like very childhood whimsical, kind of that old timey stuff that he's into. A lot of those old.
No, I just want to imagine Jeff Magnum as a child running around in circles with a little crown on his head.
I imagine like
Seems so
the
adorable.
Wild Things are kind of crown, but like flowers or something. And part 2 could be a lot of things too. It's in the liner notes. He very much implies that it's not what you think it's supposed to be about, because that's just it's never the case with Neutral Milk. I mean, Jesus Christ, I love you could be something you say, during sex. It could be something you say just passionately to somebody. It could be just
hold on that thought. Ash, during one set of any sexy times, have I ever yelled out, Jesus Christ, I love you? Yeah, I don't think it's a common saying.
not for you. Maybe for Jeff Mangum it is.
Yeah, I have never brought our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ into my bedroom.
I'm only saying if
At least
if I've said it, it's because we were playing that song or that album, and I was singing along to it, and you were cowering while she heard me cringily singing.
don't listen to the album while doing.
I can give you around 20 different fucking moments in time in which I can prove you wrong.
Anyway, the Jesus Christ, I love you. I always imagine it's like a shitty rom-com thing of like that's what some guy would say to a girl in bed. And it's the 90s, so whatever.
It's the 90s, so we allow it.
And I don't know what that, but cheesy stuff like that happened, I guess. At least in the movies. But then we move into part 3. And part 3 is this really great, distorted, kind of punky song, Up and Over. Like it's part 3, but it's called Up and Over. He's performed it elsewhere as Up and Over.
So I would say that the important parts of part 2 and 3 is not so much like part 1 brings out this kind of more cruising and shows the kind of whole lyrical content of this album, and then parts 2 and 3 really show the kind of musical concepts of this album, and I think that's what makes it more important than the actual lyrics of the fucking thing do. I reckon they could be any lyrics that they put into there. I'd probably still get the same reaction from it. As long as obviously the lyrics fit with the tune.
You gonna say Tricks?
That does make a lot of sense. That it does feel more. This one is more sound based as opposed to lyric based as the first one, and some of the lyrics are still interesting.
And So My Mother in a Garbage Bin is one of the best lyrics in the album.
Plus, you also got to remember that this album has, for what was probably at the time, a pretty unique sound in folk punk. And you've just had an opener that's gone for 2 minutes and you haven't introduced any folk punk whatsoever. So, parts 2 and 3, to me, are still the opener. They're just a continuation of it. And that's part 1, it kind of brings up that kind of lyrical content as an opener, and then parts 2 and 3 really bring out with what the kind of sounds that you're going to hear in this album are.
Part 2 is just a big build-up. It's a transitional thing.
Yeah, it's mostly part 3, but there's a couple build-ups and mostly just so commonly. But
yeah, it builds up into something really beautiful, and like I know so many bands have taken from Neutral Milk since over the last 20 years, but I still feel like there's nothing quite like Up and Over, or like a lot of these songs.
I only mosh to Neutral Milk Hotel. Thank you.
Like we say they're folk punk, but they encompass a lot of different things. They're acoustic, they're distortion wave kind of stuff. There's like
Well, folk punk can be purely acoustic.
Yeah,
it's really just whatever the album needs to be.
I mean, like you could even say the horns are kind of like almost a ska influence of some sort.
Neutral Milk Hotel was a ska band, and that's a tag I haven't heard.
I'm not saying they're a ska band. I'm just saying that was the era when putting horns in your band was like really popular.
Does that mean that Smash Mouth is an inspiration to Neutral Milk Hotel?
They're contemporaries.
For ice. And also, they are of the Elephant Six, so they are right there with us Montreal.
Moving on to the title track in the Aeroplane Overseas, just before we start putting in arguments that the majority of the music community would disagree with.
We don't agree with ourselves. We're just
Well,
saying.
no such thing as bad publicity, baby.
Yeah, I want 100 angry nerds going at me for calling Neutral Milk Hotel a ska band.
Like a career.
Well, if we have 100 angry nerds, we have like 1,000 normal people.
I'm not saying
No,
they're a ska band.
You just know, when you talk about Neutral,
Just
you
pointing
start
out.
getting 100 people complaining about everything.
Okay,
Doesn't matter who you are.
Tricks, title SEO, Neutral Milk Hotel has to be in there somewhere. Just be aware. They got to put their name in there somewhere so people listen to it.
Oh, I'm gonna put neutral. The title is gonna be Neutral Milk Hotel as a ska band.
Perfect. Because if you look, our Devin Townsend episode got a lot of hits. I think because Devin Townsend's name was in it. So
Yeah, I think so too.
Anyway, in the Aeroplane Over the Sea is like one of the most perfect songs I've ever heard in my life. Continue.
Two-Headed Boy is what I consider to be the weakest song off this album. Continue.
I disagree, and I really
Let me hold it close and keep it here.
love Two-Headed Boy.
I'm not saying I don't love it. I just consider it the weakest.
I think Two-Headed Boy is redeemed by Two-Headed Boy Part 2, bringing it back.
Two-Headed Boy Part 2 is probably one of the best songs off the album. Just Two-Headed Boy Part 1.
You need Part 1 there to set it up.
Yeah, you needed to set it up.
I always like the imagery that part 1 has given me, because I always get because the images seem to be like an actual like two-headed boy, and that's what he's singing to in the jar. So like I get like a Joseph Mengele type creation in my head.
Yep, Two-Headed Boy has always reminded me of Wes Anderson. Like I imagine like Moonrise Kingdom Boy dancing around with the radio wires and his Sunday shoes.
So
I will say the line "fingers and the notches in your spine." I get like the image of like an old book, because on how like some old books they have like the little ridges on the spine of the book.
Also, when you get notches on a spine, that's usually if you're super malnourished and like weak and probably going to die.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be a reference to both, obviously, because obviously this, again, going back, Diary of Anne Frank. I think it's supposed to be both.
Let's not skip over an Aeroplane though, because oh my god, just Aeroplane. We talk about how King of Carrot Flowers introduces a lot of stuff, but Aeroplane also introduces a lot of instrumentation and a lot of sounds that are just so important to the album, like the singing saw, like the seagulls, like the white noise that's there, the distortion stuff. There's so much going on there, and it's also just a really good example of how Jeff is able to create all this imagery and all of this stuff going on when it's mostly just, for most of the song, it's just him and an acoustic guitar. And that's something that comes up over and over on the album. He's able to make himself and his guitar sound more than they are.
Yes.
So in the Airplane Over the Sea is lyrically, it's a great example throughout this whole album in which you can just take the song out of context and it can have a new meaning. It is, well, so you obviously got all these Anne Frank references, blah, blah, blah. In the Airplane Over the Sea has always kind of just been like this whole reflection of life.
Yeah.
In kind of 3 minutes. I know it could easily be passed off as a love song with this, you got the lyrics like, oh, what a beautiful face I have found in this place.
Start going all around the sun. Describing the earth that way is just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, it is a real visual song, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but
Secret Sleep in Winter Clothes, I think, is the best line on the whole album. Just the imagery and just like what that suggests.
The what line?
Secret Sleep in Winter Clothes.
Yeah.
You love so long ago. That
makes sense.
It's a beautiful, beautiful song.
Yeah. And one of the things I commented on just the album as a whole when I was really like first listening to the album is that the albums are simultaneously, or not the albums, the lyrics are simultaneously incredibly beautiful, but yet beautifully dark at the same time. In like a way I haven't.
Wait, what?
Like the lyrics are beautifully dark in a way that I haven't seen done before or since this album has come.
I mean, he does it in other songs, elsewhere, but it's very unique to him. Like, I mean, sure, other artists have probably done it in certain ways, but no one has done it quite like this, in my opinion.
Yes.
I have a lot of memories, like, just tied to listening to these songs. Because for a while after that whole story I told, I couldn't listen to this album just for all the stuff that it brought up. But then I went away to college, and I would just start walking around Chicago listening to this album, which, you know, may be dangerous to some people, but I was fine. And just like going to school in the fall and having all these kind of fall wintry lyrics popping up was very, very just warm and fuzzy and just memorable.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like Aeroplane and Two-Headed Boy specifically were just kind of marking those moments and just like coloring how I saw the city and how I was seeing life at that time.
No, with the amount of times that I played this album, I know I was kind of joking about it before, but there are enough memories that I do have from listening to this album. I believe the first time I actually ever went over to Ash's house, like I walked over to I would have been to the train station because I would have caught it to like somewhere on a bus. The first album I actually decided to play while walking, and it always been ingrained in my head, was In the Airplane Over the Sea. There you go. There's one beautiful memory.
Thanks.
So Two-Headed Boy is a very clear flamenco beat. You just need those canastas, whatever they're called, to just kind of keep the beat. It'd be perfect. It'd be so perfect.
Yeah, Two-Headed Boy is like the only song off this album I can just say is never really done much for me. It's nothing about it has ever made me say I hate this tune. Back in the old days, sometimes I would skip it if I didn't really feel like finishing the whole album.
Doesn't mean with the
I don't
full-
know. I think it's a good song. It's just that it's never done anything for me.
I said it's
Like
very
the rest of this album does.
It's very quirky and whimsical, and I wrote a note here that says all teenage boys who are queer are two-headed boys, and maybe that's reading way too much into it, but that felt real.
Although I definitely always can appreciate that just the emotion Jeff brings out on pretty much every song of this, including
Yeah.
Two-Headed Boy.
I gotta say, I think the imagery is one of the strongest in the songs.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. It's just sometimes you can't explain why a song never really hits you,
Get that?
and that's the case with this one.
It's fine. I feel that way about The Fool. Like, The Fool is an interesting song. Like, I like it, but I don't always listen to it. It's mostly horns, and I think it's either
To me,
in
the
3/3
Fool is
or
kind of like
4
part
time.
of Two-Headed.
Actually, I know we'll be skipping a bunch of this, but I mean, like, who really gives a shit? This album does actually have one of the few instrumental tracks, just out of any song ever, I do actually go out of my way to listen to. With, I think in some versions it's just left to as untitled. I think the actual name is supposed to be The Penny Arcade in California.
I didn't know that was the title. I thought it was always untitled.
No, it does actually have the title The Penny Arcade in California.
Because I think Holland 1945 had to get a title because it was also called Untitled, and they couldn't have two Untitles.
Yeah.
But that instrumental was one of the few times in which I know it should just be like a real simple mosh, but every time I listen to Ghost, I have to play that song afterwards because it's just
Yes, absolutely. The way those last three songs flow together is some of the best I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ghost to Two-Headed Boy Part 2 is not a single second of that do I want to be stopped listening to this. If you see me listening to these parts of the album, do not stop me. I want to keep going. Because I'm always somewhat unclear which I think my favorite of this album is, but I think Two-Headed Boy Part 2 is one of the most emotional closes I've ever heard. And it's just fucking beautiful.
That is like one of the few songs that is legitimately giving me shivers just listening to it for the first time. Like especially when he drops the two-headed boy line, and it's like you're not like I wasn't expecting it. Like I know two-headed boy part 2, but it doesn't come in until like near the end. And he just drops it at the perfect moment, and it's like oh fuck.
Yeah.
And I'll get out the lyric at the end of it. You guys keep talking for a bit whilst I get it up.
I hate her when she gets to leave.
No. I'll get it up. It's because I want to make sure I'm not getting it wrong.
Yeah, the
Where is
Fool's
it?
Cove just for showing off the horns and having that whole
Yeah.
part of the album come into the fore.
Now, so the lyric in which I think really like sums up the kind of lyrics that really sum up this whole album and just really always get me emotionally is and when we break, we'll wait for our miracle. God is a place where some holy spectacle lies. When we break, we'll wait for a miracle. God is a place you will wait for the rest of your life. There's so much you can go, like how it's a real. You get it, like.
It's not about religion. You just get it.
No, it's not. It's that whole kind of way of finding life, like finding contempt.
And
it's that hoping for the better times and anything like that. But it's where some holy spectacle lies. It's like God is a place. It's like you're waiting for this holy spectacle, but then it's you're waiting the rest of your life for it.
Yeah.
So much of the rest of the song is kind of filled with, images of anger and love and all this other stuff kind of floating around together. Heads filled with flames and then just a lot. And then it just kind of breaks off into this. It's really something. I wish I had more articulate words, but
Album's a 10 out of 10.
We skipped like half the album though, so we should backtrack.
We should go back to Holland 1945.
That's what I was just about to say.
Let's all hop in the time machine together. Go on, Tricks.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Tell us
about Holland 1945, Tricks. What was it like?
First time listening to it, it completely took me off guard. I immediately had fallen in love with the sound, and it just listening to the lyrics. There was just a lot to it, but it conjured a great image, and I will say, the first time I listened to this album, I immediately played it, and this is the song that I've used show a couple of my friends who haven't listened to Neutral Milk Hotel, who just think it's like a meme album. I'm like, you gotta listen to this song, and it usually draws them in.
See, for a while, I would have said that Holland 1945 was undisputably my favorite. I think that's changed now. I'll say my favorite at the end of this. But I reckon for someone getting into this album to pick a favorite, and they just don't want to go, oh, in the airplane overseas, don't go to the title track because you go on Spotify, that's the most played. It's probably the most accessible. But actually, truly picking a favorite, I think Holden 1945 is the easiest. I reckon as you go more and more into this album, you start to appreciate some of the depth of other songs, and then say, oh, I like this more, which is what happened to me.
Oh yeah, it's a good starting point.
And then you start going into more Neutral Milk Hotel stuff and start listening to Song Against Sex, and you have bloody sirens at the start.
Studio Chatter. I love Studio Chatter. Oh, the Studio Chatter in this album was also really good.
Oh yeah. Do you know the story to the ending of O Comly?
I do, but Tricks, do you know?
I do not.
So I'll explain this one because I like it. Are you done with this? Or? Alright, I'll finish it later. So it's just a Pepsi. And obviously O Comly is this 8.5 minute or something like that journey. And Jeff Magnum did, I don't know if it was the guitar as well, but he did his vocals in one complete take. From start to finish. That's all the same take, which is why the vocals flow so well in that as well. And you can hear one of the band members screaming, "Holy shit!" And that is his just true reaction to seeing Jeff Magnum pull that off. Jeff Mango, sorry.
I'd like to believe it was also the guitars, but I know it was like something like that, yeah. Because if he did the whole guitar part and the singing, like, holy shit, right?
Yeah.
And I'm
For
willing
8 minutes as well.
I am willing to believe that he did, because there's something about that song that gets into like an almost autopilot kind of rhythm, I feel like, where he's so passionate and so into it, it's like you can't stop him almost. And he just keeps going and going and going. But we'll get to that in a minute. Let's finish up Holland 1945, because the story about that being like the last song to really get included in the album, like it is one of the most accessible parts of the album, and like not having it there is like crazy to me.
Yeah.
Oh,
See, O Comly, I reckon actually took me a while to get into, mostly because of the length of it. And usually when you go to those really longer songs, when you start listening to songs just randomly out of context, it's a bit harder to do that with long songs.
Yeah.
But the more you listen to it, the more you start to actually appreciate a lot that happens in quite the simplistic track.
We'll ask
Yeah.
a couple things. Number one, in the end of Holland, is that a scream or is that a horn that goes into Communist Daughter?
Probably both.
It mixes so well. It sounds like both.
I'm gonna listen to just the end of the track.
It would not put it
Why
past
not?
them to cut it together. Another question is Jeff Mangum a good singer?
Well, his voice might not be so appealing to everyone who's not into this type of style, but yes, he's a fucking great singer. It's not actually as easy to sing like this as people might think. It's not as calming of a voice as most that you see in folk. Like, it's not a Bon Iver sound.
I think he's a great singer. It's just whenever I try to show him to other people, everyone kind of focuses on like the voice. And it's like, oh, it's too nasally. He's too flat. He's out of pitch. It's like,
then you just tell them they're out of pitch.
Like, are you listening to the emotion this man puts into every syllable?
Pitch is a social construct.
He kind of is, yeah.
Singing is just a social construct. Everyone has a great voice.
Not
yeah,
true.
You know what? I'm not going to torture people with my singing voice.
Give us Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Duo Comely.
No. No, I will not do that.
You thought about it for a second.
No, I was looking at my girlfriend just say thank you to me saying I won't sing. So
dear, we will fold and something.
Doesn't matter how much I shit post on this, I'm just getting roasted by her.
Did you listen to the part of the track, Tricks?
Yeah, I think it's just horns.
bad.
It sounds like a scream, which is amazing.
Well, I spent some time with some band kids, and I know that
Yeah,
horned
this not
instruments can make
the
noises
I
that
spent
they're
some
not
time
supposed
with
to
some
make.
band kids. Sounds like they're the most riskiest thing that anyone's said on this podcast.
I was in high school, okay?
American Pie.
I was not in the
20
band
years later.
myself.
20 years later.
I was in the vocal ensemble. I sang and danced. It's more embarrassing than playing the tuba.
Played the oboe. I think I felt.
Ooh.
That's right. I played the trombone in primary school.
Joe Boy in a Neutral Milk cover band or something.
I'll play bass.
You want to create ska covers of Neutral Milk Hotel?
Let's get that flamenco cover first.
Yes.
Thoughts about Communist Daughter?
Coming.
Look, usually when I create semen stains, it's on our mountaintops, but whatever fits Jeff Magnum.
I think it's the only
Well,
song
I-
on the album.
Go ahead.
I think it's the only song on the album that's like clearly in stereo, or that utilizes stereo and the way stereo is usually used at like different sounds or different levels of sound in different ears.
Okay, I didn't actually listen to this. I'm going to be honest. My phone has been in mono for because I only listen to shit at work with bud.
Just listen to whatever default is. So I, have
I
no
will
idea.
go. I will go back to listen to this album in stereo.
But yeah, and I'm sure there are other songs on there that are stereo, mastered, but this one stood out to me the most. There's a lot of great just noise and just ambience and just sounds of like radios and stuff that I really appreciate. It's one of the weaker tracks in the album, but it's still really cool stuff.
It's a filler track though. It's supposed to help flow in between Holden 1945 and O'Connelly.
And it does.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah, it would be jarring if it wasn't there.
Right. And I think that's the really wonderful thing is that this album is like the most perfect flow I think I've ever heard of an album.
Mhm.
Like you need each track to be there, even if all the tracks are not the greatest all the time. And that's like
See, when I bring avalanches onto this podcast, you're just gonna go and fucking throw that statement out of the water.
I said one of, so I'm not sure, but
I will when I put avalanches, trust me, that will fucking blow that one out of the water. You haven't heard Flow till you've heard an Avalanches album.
Oh Comely, since we just gotta get that done. Oh Comely has the most notes I've ever taken for a song so far on this podcast. It's almost an entire page. It's just me writing down.
Go through them.
I mean, a lot of it's just me writing down the
Beautiful
lyrics.
song.
Yes. Also, one that I took me a while to get into as well because of length. And I love that in the live stuff, he always describes it as like a Christmas song, which is kind of fun. Just imagine curling up to the fireplace,
It's festive.
throwing this on around the Christmas tree. Just
Time machines.
so comely. Okay, let's see. Definition of a passion song. This is one take. Just Jeff and a guitar. It's so good. He writes for himself so well. Drunken Deuteronomy? Oh, comely, a person, bristling and ugly. There isn't one such friend. And it just kind of goes on. Silly music is meaningful, magical. The movements are beautiful, all in your ovaries.
Music is awesome.
I was reading something that this is like the album where having like when Jeff was like using his own vocals to back himself in certain songs that kind of blew people away. Like that was like being attempted. I know the last part of O Comely is part of another song that he never released anywhere called Godoline, or at least Godoline has been in other songs that have had parts kind of repurposed. That's always interesting too, just kind of how he recycles songs and reuses stuff here and there, and it always works. It's always super great. Yeah. Anyone else about Oakumley?
No, I think we're
It's
pretty much got
a
the album
Sonic-
kind of done from here.
The Sonic Journey.
Sonic
And
Journey.
Sonic 06.
and like
Sonic Adventure 2. Thank you.
the lines, "Your father made fetus, flesh flicking ladies." It's a very interesting way for that to say, like, oh, your father was cheating with your mother, and you have brothers and sisters you don't know about.
You were asleep in the trailer park.
That one's just about sleep.
I would love to read a Jeff Mangum book. I think he would have so many just vivid imagery and just weird, amazing, just metaphors and similes.
I feel like it would be.
Get your kids the Jeff Mangum picture book. Here we
I
go.
feel like it would
Ferris
be
wheel.
if-
Everyone's on fire.
I feel like if Jeff Mangum were to write a book, it would be like fucking H.P. Lovecraft were to drop a bunch of acid before writing.
Or be like House
Except,
of Leaves, get super into it.
So H.P. Lovecraft without the racism.
Hope so.
He was more of a xenophobe, and that's just because he was like extremely sick and lived in Boston. Hundreds.
I don't think there's much xenophobes that aren't racist though.
Let's not try to excuse H.P. Lovecraft, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. I love H.P. Lovecraft's work.
You can love the art. He's a dick.
Can I at least dispel the myth that he named a cat after the N-word?
Okay, you
Please
just
don't, because
that was
that
just-
actually sounds somewhat funny of history.
That was
I know it's
his
offensive,
family
but-
cat that his
Family
parents had named. And he had it when he was a young boy.
I was a young boy. My father named a cat.
Named my cat after slaves.
Jesus, can we get off of fucking H.P. Lovecraft, please?
Yeah, sorry.
Never.
Let's start pumping up some other real racist authors or some shit right now. Birth of a Nation is a film. I don't know. Yeah, let's talk about that. No, but let's not.
I have never seen Birth of a Nation.
A film major, of course I've fucking seen it. But anyway.
Hold on. Let's just cause a fight right over here. Hey, Ash, you ever heard of Song of the South?
I actually would like
Yeah,
to see
search
it.
it up.
I would love to see that too.
I want to see Disney own up to their
Like-
racism.
Like, yeah, with the racism, like, because I want to see where like all the Splash Mountain characters came from.
Hey, did they ever unfreeze Walt Disney? Are the Jews gone yet? No. Put me back in.
That is a movie where Zippity Doo comes from.
That is one of the few good Family Guy jokes that still holds up. That one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want us to seem like we're trying to be offensive here or racist, because I don't think we are. I hope
We're not.
not.
Well, assuming as I don't want to, like, kill people because they're a different race, or even harm them, I think I might not be a racist. Sorry, Lovecraft.
Let's move on. This is going
Yes.
weird, dark places. Ghost is an underrated song.
It's a good song, yeah.
Yeah, no, Ghost is the best.
Yes, I
I've
know
said that
you
about every
and me.
song.
Nah, Ghost is actually the best of this album. I don't even need to explain why. Just listen to it. It's the best.
It's got that vibe that Holland 1945 has.
Yeah.
But
Plus, listening to Jeff Mango just going dee 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 dee. Fucking keep doing that, man. Keep doing it. My ears are enjoying.
I get to Untitled with the bagpipes.
Fuck yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll expand this to say that, yeah, Ghost plus Penny Arcade in California. Best, like, I think it's around 5 to 6 minutes in total of the album. It's just that way that it ends and going into this like 2.5 minute instrumental mush with bagpipes is not something that you would always expect to do, but fuck off, it's fucking brilliant.
It just transitions perfectly into Two-Headed Boy Part 2. Like you're fucking rising through the air like you've dead and gone to heaven or something, and it's like I don't know, something like that.
I'll also actually explain another time that I can remember listening to this album, and this is when I showed my dad this album, who surprisingly for having fathers, I have one who is incredibly into finding new music and everything, in which a lot of my taste is actually stuff that he has recommended me. Like when it comes to King Gizzard, I got into them because he recommended King Gizzard to me. For someone who's around 40 years older than me, that is a bit of something that you might consider a surprise. So I remember showing him Neutral Milk Hotel, and we listened to it on the car ride to, I think, just to a football game. And his response to the whole thing was that he didn't really like the whole album because he thought the whole thing was the same, except for the one with the bagpipes. He enjoyed that.
You know, people are strange these days.
But the bagpipe song is the greatest.
I mean, who doesn't love some good bagpipes, except when my neighbor fucking played them and I can hear them all fucking night.
But I mean,
sore spot.
Australia has been well known for having bagpipes in some of our hit songs.
Yeah, well,
AC/DC's Long Way to the Top, the Church's Under the Milky Way. I think that's also a synthesized bagpipe.
This is a true story, though. My next door neighbor to me when I used to live out in the country. Oh, and like next door neighbor was like actually close. When you think rural, it was a weird rural area. But the neighbor would play bagpipes in his yard at night, all night long, in a kilt and everything. Like if he was trolling or something, it was impressive. But like it was just bagpipes at 3 a.m.
I don't want to be that man who goes like, hurry shit up, but we're looking at the time of which we're recording this. I don't think we should be stretching for much longer than we are. So should we put in some final thoughts of this album?
Great album.
The fucking best.
10 out of 10.
Favorite songs.
Great album.
Yeah, Ghost and Penny Arcade are definitely my favorites, and Two-Headed Boy Part 1 is probably my least favorite.
I don't have a lead. It's all hype.
I love it all. I'll say that God, if I had to choose now, maybe Two-Headed Boy Part 2 is my favorite, and Aeroplane Over the Sea is also my favorite. My least favorite's The Fool. I Am the Fool. Yeah. That's that.
And with that, we have covered the albums.
Okay, now album ranking. Everybody's Neutral Milk Hotel is one, I'm guessing, for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. There's,
I'm guessing that the Middle East is going to be the second for everybody.
Yep.
Last
Claypool Lennon Delirium is last. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, I want to point out just though that just because we put the Claypool Lennon as last and probably haven't talked about it as much, I want to stress that that is still a really fantastic album. And this is, I mean, I think this is actually the first time in which my album hasn't been number one. And that is just a testament to how good Neutral Milk Hotel's album is. But that's kind of something everyone else knows. Middle East EP is so just fucking fantastic. But the Claypool Lennon one is also really good. I think if you put me up, like if you told me to do the whole rankings, which don't you dare tell me to do.
I was going to tell you to do that because we're going to make
podcast.
A Dissonant Waves Twitter account, and everybody's going to do like a meme tier ranking.
20 listeners.
But I reckon all three of these albums would be really high in the overall ranking, I think.
So yeah, solid albums.
I'd probably put Claypool Lennon under Gautier though.
Would you just have Gautier in like its own tier?
Yeah, next week. Well, actually, Neutral Milk deserves to be in its own tier. Thank you. But so next week we are changing it up a little bit. We're still doing the same format, but we decided to do a little theme. We are going to do all 2019 albums. And let's go around the room and talk about which albums we picked. I'll go first.
I'll go last here.
I go first. I picked LSD, the collaboration, kind of like Clem and Laypool, between Labyrinth, Sia, and Diplo. Stay tuned for thoughts on that.
I chose the album Rattler, Petite League.
I've decided to go for meme status in this.
What's going on there?
There we go.
He's playing fucking Shooting Stars.
I just chose Bag Raiders for next week's album. Don't shoot me, please.
It's Horizon. The Back Raiders.
How long did you rehearse that?
Actually, not at all. I just pulled that off the fucking top of my ass.
Fucking
Yes,
gold.
Sydney Boys Bag Raiders have finally put out a new album that, at the time of this recording, came out actually only a week ago. So this is pretty much first impressions for everybody here.
Yep.
Oh, LSD presents LSD, Petite League's Rattler, and Bag Raiders Horizons. That's our show today. Sorry again if we offended anybody with our talk. Intentional.
Mostly Scott Adams. I think he's really the only one who's going to get really pissed.
Yeah, but then again, he's one of those guys that seems like
He gets pissed at it. Literally, if he gets pissed off at a fucking dishwashing commercial, I think he gets pissed off at everything.
P. Lovecraft is a racist, and no one needs to see Birth of a Nation. Really, either one. Well, then maybe the newer one if you really, really want to. But Nate Parker is also kind of a terrible person. So yeah.
And to Jeff Mangum, I would only do it consensually.
B.
Oh, let's end it here, boys. Plug your shit.
Then we cut it off there. But yeah, you can find me at tiltingwindmillstudios.com, or I have opinions. You can find me on Twitter at DACICHOCKI, where I also have opinions.
I'm Ritalin. You can catch me on my YouTube channel because I might actually be uploading something there this week. By the time that this gets uploaded, actually, because you can also catch me on my website at ritalinforkids.github.io. I should actually be releasing a project by the time that this is uploaded, which is cool. Which is this fucking meme that I've made for Mini-Me's Discord. So I hope everyone's prepared for that. It's probably already released by the time that this is. So
Well,
I
I'm gonna
think
upload
actually
this
click on this link
today.
for once.
My name is Dominic, by the way. I forgot to mention that. Also follow Mini-Me and Tricks.
Follow me. I've been Tricks. You can find me at Procrastronaut on Twitter. It's like procrastinating underscore or procrastinating astronaut, and there's an underscore at the end. And I too am working on a YouTube channel. I'm currently just getting all the shit together. I'll link it later. But I'm currently working on cooking mama recipes in real life.
Pass me some of them.
Right. That is the three of us. Ash is somewhere there in the background. Hello again. Goodbye.
And,
Yeah, she's
Ritalin, I'd like
just
to say,
making sure to make
say
fun out of
sorry
me.
to your girlfriend.
Look, she laughed at me a couple times here and roasted me. I think she gets what she deserves. Don't stare at me like that.
Me.
Yeah, she probably actually had to bed. It's 11:30 p.m. here.
Oh yeah, you should get to bed, man.
Night all. Goodbye all. That's a podcast.
Goodbye, Craig.
Fuck you.